Great to see you all, and thanks so much, Miranda and C's, for organising this. It's really exciting to take part. Before I start my presentation, I just want to say that it does contain some images of self-harm and some flashing lights, but I know the lights are okay for people with photosensitive epilepsy. I'm going to screen the film, and if it looks a bit glitchy, you can see a better version via links on the Gaslighting website or via, and that I think links to my website. To give you some context, for many years I was an animator directing kind of painterly films and commercials like these. Then I experienced domestic violence in my marriage, culminating with an attempted murder, and I overworked to cope. And that caused a career-ending hand injury. And I had a breakdown and I developed PTSD, and I ended up in the psychiatric system where I experienced further abuse by psychiatrists. And I was seriously unwell for many years. And then I realised I wasn't going to recover until I re-engaged with my creativity. So I went back to the Royal College of Art and I started doing a PhD. It's this one, it's called Bearing Witness, Autoethnographic Animation and the Metabolism of Trauma. And it started with A Murder as the first of 3 films that are part of this research. So I'm using animation to process my trauma. So here are images of blood and skin that represent the personal and visceral nature of domestic violence. And these are juxtaposed with flashing lights which represent assaults, and then text from my affidavit describing what happened during my marriage. So some of this text is from court orders and judgments that I manipulated to give the impression that my ex-husband went to prison. He didn't really go to prison, but it felt very empowering to effectively convict him within this film. And this is actually my version of a technique called imagery rescripting, which psychologists use to treat complex trauma by altering its narrative quite effectively, apparently. So I'm now going to play the film. It's 3 minutes long and it's silent. So that's me.
Hi to everyone. I'm before them being an artist, clearly I'm a human being, but I'm a survivor. And I discovered to be a survivor actually not so many years ago, because no one explained me that what I lived when I was a child was wrong. I just knew that my stepmother tried to kill me, that's it. And that I knew that was wrong, but I didn't know what all the rest of the family has done to me and how they kept everything hiding from the rest of society and from myself as well. And since when I start to discover what happened to me, I discovered that, as Miranda say, my story is just one of many. And for this reason, I became more and more involved in this conceptual art. I was used to do art before this discovery. I think that actually art is what kept me alive since when I was a child, actually, because it was an escape somehow. But at some point when I started this path for healing and of awareness about my personal trauma, I started to approach more and more art in a conceptual way for expressing my anger and my disappointment about how society accepts all what happened without doing actually something concretely and specifically changing legal framework. So I started to do my personal path about this, trying to change things, doing research about every topic that I face that mainly is about violence on women, because I'm a woman, that's it, because I'm aware that actually gender violence is just one kind of violence in a big scale of violence that human beings practice to each other and to the rest of the world. But I'm a woman, so I took for my experience. So after exploring my personal experience, I start to question myself why men hate women, but they have sex with them. And in that way, I approached to the topic of FGM, that I knew it what was, but I didn't get so specific ever. I spent 2 years and a half researching and preparing material and shooting and editing this video that is titled Adam and Eve, that is about genital cuts, not only about FGM, but also circumcision and about rape. And after that, a door got open. That is all my work about Girls' World. That is now, finally, I will share something. You will see the work about Girls' World on Gaslighting exhibition. And so I start to do this work with these Barbies, creating this set about what exactly girls worldwide should enact playing with Barbies if they want to talk about what actually happened to the 70–80% of women and girls in the world. This was the one that you see was my first work that is about infanticide and abortion, preventive abortion, about, when women, they discover, above all in India, that they are pregnant of girls, they have abortions. So I watched this documentary saying that there were 2 million women in a demographic missing in the world, and I got shocked, and this was my first work with this series with Barbies. What I'm showing you is the way that I decide to show this work, because clearly doing this work, the final images that I realize are just for having attention from people. But what I need more is that they get involved to the topic, they go to see the sources, the link, the data, and they get a little bit interested and also upset if they want, if they like, and possibly then they try to do their own path. So I didn't know how to share this, how to have visibility, because my partner was saying, yeah, set up an exhibition. And I was saying, who is going to see my exhibition? I mean, no one is interested in what I'm doing. So I start to stick around my postcards of this work with at the bus stop. As you can see, I put the image from one side and the writing from the back, with the hope that people, they get interested, they go to see the website with all the information, or they take away the postcards that they are encapsulated with plastic. So also if it rains, there is wet, it doesn't matter. And then they take them away and they carry on doing their own research. So from this work, I then approached to more and more problems about girls and women, discovering that in the 2018, the UN, the United Nations Office in Drugs and Crime, published a booklet titled Gender-Related Killing of Women and Girls. And in this booklet, there was written the numbers of women killed worldwide. And 50,000 women and girls every year are killed by intimate or former partners or family members. Again, I got so upset that I decided to do a work, but then there was again the problem how to show the work. So on the 8th of March, International Women's Day, I paid with my money. All my activism is self-funded. I pay by myself. I just pay for this ad van to go around in London with this number. As you see, there is written in the 2017 in Europe, 184 people died as victims of terrorism, 3,000 female died as victims of femicide. The relationship of this number is 1 to 11, with the difference that for terrorism, we have laws that they have been done within 1 year after the attack of 9/11 in the 2001. For femicide, no, there are no way in Europe to have a proper legal framework. So I've done this activism, didn't go very well. I had the company, the advertising company kind of sabotaging me, and I then just decided to do again the same work by myself as a sandwich board woman for the 16 days of activism. And after that, let's pass straight away what happened in these days. Thanks to SIAS, I decided to put out massive billboards in 3 different towns in the south of England. And thank you so much for SIAS for this call about the posters. And I hope that you will see my work later. And before stopping, I just invite everyone that is upset or has some sort of thing to say and some skills about art, don't keep it for yourself. Just go out and put it out. Write on the walls, on the pavement, and I don't know, do as me billboards, van, and go outside with a sign on yourself. But art is the only way that we have, all of us, for changing culture and changing society and shaping society. So thank you so much for your attention.
Hi, everybody. I'm Laura. I'm really excited to be in this show. It's a subject very close to my heart. Thanks to Miranda for inviting me. As the show is virtual, and I'm a painter, and I'm an artist, but 2 of my pieces are paintings. I put one of the paintings, the Purple Room, on the wall behind me, so you can kind of get an idea of the scale of it. The project that this is connected to now didn't begin as my project. I was invited by Ali Crew, who's been doing an incredible portrait series about domestic abuse, and she's been doing portraits of survivors for quite a while now. And she wanted to find some way of having a backdrop that connected, that people could choose, that they could connect with. And she invited me to make some backdrops, and I made 3 backdrops. The first of which, Home, is the other piece that's in the exhibition, and you can see there's a similar process. So what I wanted to do with Home, it was very much a more general notion of the connection of home. So I was given 3 subjects. Home was the first of them, and for me, I looked at areas of domestic abuse in terms of the individual, the experience, the way that home that's supposed to be somewhere safe isn't, and the objects and the items in that home that make it unsafe. Things that seem quite normal and that we're used to having in the home are suddenly dangerous things, or symbols of dangerous things to come, or things once they've passed. So I made a list of objects that I connected with that. Everything from a football scarf or a pint of beer to a chair, the armchair that he sat in, or the cup of tea that you're encouraged to have after something traumatic's happened by the police to calm you down. So I listed all these objects, and I wanted the image to be imbued with them, but not to be dictatorial, because everybody's idea of these things changes. So what I did was I made a list, did the research, found the specific objects I wanted, drew the objects, and then painted them onto fabric, which I then screwed up in my fist and arranged. And you'll see a film of me doing that with the drawing for this. And I painted that. So with this particular one, the purple room, it connects to a very specific event, which I won't go into detail in, but needless to say, I did the same process. I made a list. I found items that were connected with the time period that were accurate. So I've got a couple of examples here. So I made things like there was a parrot was one of those things. So I made drawings to try and get the right connection, and everything from that to a plaster. And then all these things were then painted onto a piece of purple paper. And the reason it's purple is that the room that the person's trauma happened to, the trauma happened outdoors, but the actual place that they stayed and the thing that they associate with this particular time period is the purple room that they temporarily was their bedroom that they shared. So here you can see the drawing, which if I take that off, you can unfold. So the paper is very soft, so it acts like fabric. It was very difficult finding things that were easy to paint on. And as you can see, there's lots of objects on here, all of which are, there's no right way up. There's things that are each way around. And then it was crushed up and painted from life. And then the color sort of takes over when you're painting, to keep it harmonious and create something beautiful from something traumatic symbolizes getting through it and going forward and moving forward. And it's been interesting hearing what people have been saying about what they see in the work when they're looking at it. So it's all sort of come together as this series, Crushing Trauma, which is ongoing. I was really happy to get this painting finished in time for this exhibition. And there's another one which I've started working on, so it'll appear on my website. But the film, there's a black and white film and a couple of photographs as well in there. So yeah, and thanks for having me.
Hello everyone, my pronouns are they and he. I have prepared a presentation with Ricardo's portrait, and then there should be a film after that. He's also got, and the soundtrack, which is the newer version of the film too. So yeah, just let that play. Hello, my name's Pacheanne Anderson. My pronouns are they, he. And today I'm just going to talk about the work that I'll be showing and how I arrived at the work. So the film that I'll be showing is called Crime of Passion. It's 3.5 minutes long, and it basically discusses abuse and domestic violence in same-sex relationships. At the time, I was in an abusive relationship. There was a lot of emotional and physical abuse, transphobia, and it was originally shown as part of an installation. So it was inside a shed, which was a room where the incident happened, and there were two screens inside the room opposite each other, so it was the perspective of the victim and the perspective of the perpetrator. Because at the time I was watching a lot of crime docu-series looking at the psychological space of criminals and episodic memories. So yeah, that was in 2018. So the new work that I'll be showing today is the soundtrack of the film. So what I've done is I've revisited the soundtrack of the film as an openly out trans person. So reflecting on the version of events and the way that the episodic memory is processed in my mind is very different. So what I did, I chopped and screwed it. I made parts of it much blurrier and much more misty, and there are parts of the soundtrack which are really loud and really heavy and really strong, which for me just signifies the parts that I actually remember still, and the bits that are most clear, which for me signifies obviously the trauma that I'm still kind of dealing with and living with. So yeah, that's what I've done for the 2020 version of the film. So I continue to look into psychological, like, crime dramas and film soundtracks. I got a lot of inspiration for the rework of the soundtrack from Shutter Island as well. I was watching that film and that really inspired, because that film is quite about, it's about like psychological space and emotional space and trauma, and reciting memories from a place of a mentally ill person or someone who can't remember. So the idea of fragmented memories, yeah, really inspired me. So yeah, that's what I was looking into when I was working on this.